Welcome everybody to the Cowboy Criminologist. I have to click the button. Somebody clicked a button. Cowboy Criminology, Cowboy Criminologist and KTZed crossover. Welcome.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. You're leading this one though, so actually technically you're having me. I'm just pressing the buttons, hopefully in the correct order.
Yeah, well, that's the important thing right there. Since I don't possess that particular skill set or knowledge, so that's the important thing. So I just want to welcome everybody to this crossover. The last time Katie and I were on together, we talked about froggers, people living inside your house without you knowing about them,
That was such a
and that
creepy
was.
episode.
Oh, it was. I got so many comments about people like, I've been like, every noise that I've heard after that, it's been something that, I mean, they say they go and check it out, but they're just sitting there going,
I've actually sent Mr. Zed to the attic at least once since we researched that case. at
have
least
you
at
really?
least one time.
Oh my gosh. That is so funny. So y'all, we've got a very good episode for y'all today. We're going to be talking about Karen Reed. Karen Reed, of course, is the Massachusetts woman who's accused of killing her police officer boyfriend, and the trial has just descended into it ended in a mistrial, but it's just descended into absolute chaos. And where it sits right now, pull up my notes. So she was charged originally with second-degree murder, and which means no premeditation. It's often called sudden cause or sudden passion murder. But according to the defense, the jury came back saying that they all agreed she wasn't guilty of that.
Yeah.
The next thing was leaving the scene of a personal injury or death, and they found her not guilty of that. Where they were conflicted was on operating under the influence manslaughter, and they were deadlocked on that. But before we get too deep into that, there are 5 police officers right now. There's at least one federal agent, one officer of the Canton PD. That's where all this happened, and 3 state troopers right now who are under investigation for their role in this and other things. And then there's the Sarah Birchmore case, where it's believed that a Canton officer murdered her and covered it up. And this was just within a year or so of the Karen Reed case.
Wow.
And everything seems to be falling.
This could have been, with all these corrupt cops, this could have been in Chicago. Boston apparently is not much better.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's what's so bizarre about this whole thing is, so I've had to watch this trial in bite-sized pieces because I've been watching, if you follow my channel, Cowboy Criminology, at all, I have a very, very limited palette for dealing with official corruption.
Yeah, which, by the way, if you're watching right now and you're not subscribed to his channel, please go do that. The link is in the description right down there. Thank you. Sorry, continue.
That's all right. No, you're good. I just have a very, very, I don't tolerate it very well. And so watching the officers testify, the ATF agent, Michael Proctor, the things that they were saying in text messages, the way the investigation unfolded, no reasonable officer is going to sit there and say, well, these guys did their best under difficult circumstances. And there are so many things that have just, I think there was a city hall meeting this last week where the town council is trying to, or some police oversight commission is trying to get money uh, money set aside or available
Mhm.
so that they can hire an outside firm to do an audit of the police department. And it's going to cost
Okay.
about $200,000, but they're putting all these stipulations. It has to be done within this amount of time, and that's not you're not going to get through an audit like that
Yeah.
without in that short period of time. The other problem is very very few firms want to have anything to do with this town right now.
Yeah.
But the town meeting devolved into complete chaos,
Really?
and it was
Did they live
horrible.
stream the meeting? Is it on is it can you go
Oh, it's
watch
been
like
on the news.
is there a place
It's
you can
been
go
on.
watch it from start to finish?
I'm sure
I'll
somebody
have to
live
look into
streamed
it.
it, but I mean it was.
If I find it, I'll add it to the description here. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You told it. Oh, it was a gong show.
Yeah.
So what stood out to me, one of the other things I have issues with is civilians attempting to lead or dictate policy to law enforcement agencies.
Yeah.
I understand there needs to be oversight because civilians do view things different than law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've never been a police officer, you have no business dictating policy. You just don't.
Yeah.
So one of the issues was the performance of the police department during.
Could you hear her? Was that loud? Xena just sighed
No,
over here. By the way, everyone, Xena's here. If you donate, Xena will get a dog treat. Let me share her camera, and then I'll take it off. But she just
keep
made
it
the
up, keep it
loudest
up.
sigh. Where's the add camera? Extra camera. Here we go. This one. Yeah, she's asleep and just made the loudest sigh that it picked up on my microphone. I don't know if you guys heard it, but she's passed out over here. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you guys know that wasn't like I don't know what it could have been, but it was her doing a giant sigh. And you know,
So
before you get too deep into details too, because I haven't covered Karen Reed at all on my channel. So could you give like just a quick overview, like just a high level overview of what happened in this case?
yeah, so there's a group of friends that all went out, and they all went out drinking. John O'Keefe, who was the victim in this case, one of the last videos we see of him is he's carrying a cocktail glass out of this local bar. And like cops do, they tend to hang out with other cops. So,
Yeah.
everybody's at this bar drinking. In none of the video do you see anything that seems to be off or out of the ordinary. It just looks like, just normal time out for people.
Does he look super drunk in the video or just regular, like a little stumbly? Or does he not look drunk at all?
It's a little hard to tell from the video.
I figured you were a Marine, so you could recognize like the level of drunkenness, and also a police officer. So,
well, the Marine in me goes, he doesn't look that bad, and the cop in me going, he doesn't need to be driving. So
yeah.
Depends on which cowboy criminologist are you asking for an opinion on, because those could be very wildly different. Those could be very wildly different opinions. But so when they get back to the house of one of the individuals who happens to be a Boston police officer, and John O'Keefe was also a Boston police officer, and I believe the owner of the home was a sergeant in the Boston PD. There seems to be some discrepancy about what happened.
Okay.
Because Karen Reed drops off John O'Keefe and apparently leaves. She's never known to have entered the house.
Okay.
But she comes back a few hours later, because John hasn't come home, she hasn't heard from him. And according to the prosecution in the case, they're saying that she had run over John O'Keefe after they had gotten into some kind of argument.
Mm-hmm.
She left him in the snow, drove off, and came back.
And they're saying that she did that on purpose. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or they're saying it was an accident and she just left the scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then backs over him. Parson, you're absolutely right. Let's not get too far ahead of the story though, because that's exactly what this whole case hinges on. That it really does. The the issue is that
in case you're wondering what this comment is about, Ed just purchased one of my it's actually says not how to get away with crime. He just purchased one of these notebooks and got it in the mail this week. So he's taking notes on how to get away with crime.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So when Karen Reed comes back, she's trying to figure out what happened to John. She's trying to understand what happened. Everybody inside the house is saying they haven't seen him. Well, then they go outside, they find him in a snowbank, and he happens to be right behind where Karen Reed's car is.
Okay.
And so, according to her, she had no idea. She didn't notice anything was amiss. No idea what happened.
Yeah.
So somewhere in this whole thing, John O'Keefe ends up dead, and suspicion starts to fall on Karen Reed. Now, a lot of that was because of statements that she made when the first law enforcement officers arrived on scene. And statements of like, this is my fault, I hit him, things like that.
Did she actually say she hit him, or it was her fault? Like, it's my fault, I'm so sorry.
Like,
I shouldn't have left.
Like, did I?
Oh, she was asking, did I? Okay.
It was more like, did I hit him?
Okay.
Because you leave one word out of that sentence and it completely changes.
It changes the whole definition. Everything. Yeah.
But then also, what was the tone? What was there's a whole demeanor there. I mean, officers are trained that 90-something% of communication is nonverbal. So you're telling me that somebody makes a re gestae statement, and a re gestae statement is just a fancy way of saying excited utterance.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said, did I hit him?
Well, that's the other thing. Was she crying hysterically when she said it? Because I mean, I've seen where people have died or something has happened to someone where it's obviously that the person didn't actually do anything to make that happen, but they feel like they're at fault because of what they didn't do. Like you see this with suicide a lot, where it's my fault, I should have seen the signs, I should have done something, I should have whatever. So is it like that, or is it I ran him over and screw that guy? Like,
her question was Terry's exactly right. It was always framed in a question because admittedly she had been drinking.
Yeah.
And when they all were. And I mean, there's no excuse for drunk driving in the age of Uber and Lyft and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But be that as it may, there's a huge difference between running somebody over and maybe not using your best judgment getting behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Huge difference there. Now, police officers have to be very careful in criminal investigations because doing the wrong thing is what starts the ball of conspiracy theories running.
Yeah.
And anything that people can tie to an impropriety will do just that. So the police department shows up. They realize that they've got an issue there. They have snow coming down. So somebody gets the genius, brilliant idea to use a leaf blower in Massachusetts in January.
Wow.
To clear snow
and evidence
so that they could see. Thank you. Okay, so put a pin
let's
in that
scatter
right there.
all of the evidence all
that ties back to the city council meeting, and where I just completely lost my mind. I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't watch any more of this. The guy who's leading the meeting is obviously incompetent, or if you've been watching the Sarah Boone stuff, non compos mentis, that's her catchphrase, along with it's not fair. But one of the members of the board was saying it was improper police work. You do not collect evidence, DNA, blood evidence in red Solo cups. And this guy was like, well, I mean, they were in a fresh package. Well, they're sterile for human consumption and
for
sterile
drinking a beer out of
and putting somebody in prison.
Yeah,
those are two completely different standards.
Absolutely.
And so the other member of the board was like, the Canton Police Department is a laughingstock right now. Who uses a leaf blower in order to find evidence?
Yeah.
And this leading this meeting says, well, I think you could look at that as being as being ingenious or showing ingenuity. And thank you. It's not just me.
It makes literally zero sense. You want to get a cover over it, there's been crime scenes before in the past where there's been snow, where it snowed on the crime scene, and that if they get a cover over it, they warm it up slowly and melt the snow in the area that they've covered where they think the evidence is, and they pull the evidence, not in Solo cups and evidence bags, by the way. There's standards for this. There's best practices.
Yes, there are. And so there's a lot of things there. So like I said, a Boston police sergeant, it's his home. And according to John O'Keefe's phone, it shows him going up and down the stairs, indicating that at least at some point he was in the house.
Yeah.
But the officers investigating didn't necessarily have that at the time, but you've still got somebody who bled to death on your front lawn of a sergeant for a major metropolitan police department, and nobody goes inside. Nobody goes inside to take a look around. You just take his word for it. No, he never came in.
Well, check to see if there's blood stains on the carpet.
Anything.
Yep.
Anything.
Yeah.
And so there was just some other things that came up where Karen Reed's vehicle was towed to. It was towed to a completely different police department instead of the one closest. Preservation of evidence seemed to just kind of be a hindsight consideration, which in normal crime scene investigations, it should be the very thing that you're focused on.
I can I could almost see taking her vehicle somewhere else, just because the police, like, if you don't want the department where these people work investigating it, you want a third party investigating it. Although you said this was in Canton and it was Boston police, so Canton wouldn't be tied to him anyway, right? Except for the fact that he lived there.
Very, very small. I mean, law enforcement's a very, very small circle. Yeah. I mean, there's 3 degrees of separation between an officer in a given location and any other officer.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so Maureen made a good point right there about John O'Keefe was working out of Canton, but he was Boston PD. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, sometimes it's a little this is one of those cases, like my dad always says, get your programs. You can't tell the players without the programs.
Yeah.
This is one of those cases because it is so convoluted. It's
You mean
so
one of those
convoluted.
Pepe da Silva boards with the red strings back here with all the players on them?
Right? Yeah. Seriously, it's like how is all this tied together? But I remember, so I'd first known about this case on Dateline or 2020, one of those true crime shows.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it with my wife, and she asked me what I thought about it at the end, and I was like, I don't see where they're coming up with the probable cause
Yeah.
to arrest for murder. And like I said at the beginning, you've got what did they have? Second degree murder, which the jury said not going to happen. Leaving the scene of personal injury or death, not going to happen. But they were deadlocked on operating under the influence manslaughter. And it's like, if you're going to kick those first two, it seems like that third one would just almost by default go away on its own.
Well, I kind of see it different because what the way I see it is they think that maybe she hit him and didn't realize it. And if she was at the bar drinking, like if you go out and drive drunk and you accidentally kill somebody and don't realize it, you're still guilty of vehicular homicide.
You are.
But you're not guilty of covering up and all of the other stuff that, doing it on purpose. But you're not guilty of doing it.
Let me ask you one question.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to say that somebody killed somebody, whether through manslaughter or murder with a vehicle, what are you going to expect to see on the victim?
Tire marks, bruising, something. I get that. I'm just saying I can see where they're coming from. That's all.
Well, yeah, I can too. But the evidence doesn't support John O'Keefe ever being hit by a vehicle.
I would expect to see like wherever the bumper is on his legs, some sort of bruising or something.
Right now, so the FBI accident reconstruction team came in, and these guys are sharp. Like the reconstruction experts, they do major accidents, and of course they have all that federal money running around, so they can do some just amazing things. But given the coroner's report and given the evidence, the only thing that ties John O'Keefe to being hit by a vehicle was these shards of the rear tail light of Karen Reed's vehicle that ended up on him.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's no other contact. Now, there's the gash from the cocktail glass on the back of his head, which was severe, incredibly severe. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't his official cause of death hypothermia related?
I thought it was like the weather, like he froze to death.
Yeah, I want to say that, but there's nothing there that shows that outside of that incidental contact there was anything there. And they did a fantastic job putting that together, but they can't put that together. So that's why I say that third charge, after listening to expert witnesses, it almost has to go away. Yeah. It's like, if you might be able to get her for operating a vehicle under the influence, depending on when they were able to get a blood draw on her by her own admission. But to sit there and say manslaughter for somebody who wasn't hit, or who doesn't appear to have been hit by a car, that's very interesting. That's very interesting, because those two would almost have to have some kind of cause and effect in order to come together. But okay, so now the case goes horribly awry, and uh, you have in the autopsy on, I believe it's his right arm.
I saw that.
There's what are obviously dog bites. I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not a canine handler, but I can look at those and go, those look like dog bites.
I looked at them
if I was,
and I thought the opposite. And my husband was a canine handler and has been bitten several times, mostly in the face for some reason. He got bit twice in the face, but that's my husband. He puts his face too close to the dogs. But there's not puncture marks and there's not bruising. And every time that he's gotten bit, a day later, however long later, there's a lot of bruising. And I don't know if that's just that he got bit and then died too fast for the bruising to show up, but it looked like it could have been scratches maybe from the dog's, nails, but it didn't look like a bite to me at all. And I'm not a vet or an expert at all. I just am married to somebody who's been bit twice since we've been married. Right. So both times in the face.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things about that. Either way, those injuries, one thing I'm sure we can both agree on, probably not caused by an automobile.
Oh no. Yeah. Well, it looked like when I saw those injuries, it looked like if you're going through the woods at night with no sleeves on, it looked like scratches from like thorns or something like that. That's what it looked like to me. If I saw those injuries with no context and was asked, what do you think that's from? That's what I would say. Like going through some brambles or something. So.
But the interesting thing is, so in the aftermath of this whole thing, you have an entire family, not to mention almost every police officer involved in the investigation. I guess they were all on the same friends and family plan for their cell phone providers.
Okay.
Because within weeks, they all got new phones. I believe the sergeant or one of the officers who was there at the residence. Yeah, incredibly strange. And there was a canine that was attached to the residence. I don't know if it was, I don't remember if he belonged to the sergeant that lived there or what the deal was, if he was a retired police dog.
It was a German Shepherd, right?
I believe so. But he's gone. He's been given to another agency or taken over from another department or
so they can't line up his claws to see if it fit. Like,
yeah, that would seem to be something fairly substantial to be able to want to know how that was involved. It doesn't make sense. So mishandling of evidence, miscollecting evidence, losing cell phones, which in most investigations where a homicide occurs, most investigators are going to automatically try and, at the very minimum, they're going to try and secure electronic search warrants so that they can preserve whatever data is on those phones.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is weird,
and that
when I change phones and I put my new SIM card or my SIM card into my new phone, everything transfers over, and that didn't happen with these new phone plans, did it? It was just like everything got wiped. Did I read that correctly? Is that what happened?
That's what they said.
Which is weird. That I haven't had that happen in probably 10 years where all of my data didn't transfer when you get a new phone, right?
I think it's pretty rare. Technological glitches can happen, of course. I mean, it's not
a whole family's phone.
Yeah, but I mean, for that to happen to everybody. Yeah. And here's the thing. So when Trooper Proctor went back and was collecting evidence from the cell phones, he was just letting them send what they thought was reasonable and prudent.
Yeah.
Instead of getting everything. Here's the issue with that. when the defense.
So you can keep talking. Sorry, I thank you
It's
very
hard.
much,
No,
Handy News, for the super chat. We're gonna wake Xena up for the super chat. Thank you. Sorry
when
for the interruption. That's what we do around
no,
here. That's my grift. How else am I
that's
gonna
all
get
right.
$2 from Handy News? Thanks, Handy. I appreciate you.
When the defense showed the full and correct data off of the phones, they showed that there were text messages that had been left out, not sent, deleted. And so all of these things come in, and it's just incredible to me that this has made it as far as it has. Like, and I think a lot of that has to do with the judge. The judge is pretty much spoon fed the prosecution this entire time. I think in a lot of ways she's really overstepped. And I'm really surprised that the Massachusetts Supreme Court hasn't just kicked this whole thing.
Do you think they're going to retry it?
Yeah, so it's up for retrial right now. They're working on retrying her, and they're actually bringing in the defense attorney who represented Whitey Bulger, the Boston mobster.
Yeah,
they're bringing him in as a special prosecutor. It's like you put in your A team, and you weren't able to secure a conviction, and now
you're bringing a defense lawyer as a prosecutor.
Yeah, right. It just there's just no end. Before we get too far though, or I want to tell everybody I have got a special announcement to make.
All right.
And so last year I finished it originally started off as a doctoral dissertation if I decided to go back and get my PhD, but I ended up in law school, so no regrets there. But I submitted it for publication, and last week it became available. So it's going to be on a variety of formats. Right now it's on Amazon, but it's going to be coming to Barnes and Noble. It's going to be coming to Google Books and a couple of other platforms. It's called Monsters Have Always Walked Among Us: Vampires, Werewolves, Zombies, and Witches, How Serial Killers Help Create the Monsters That We Fear. And
it looks
basically
amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I wish I could take credit for the artwork. The artwork on the cover and the interior of the book is AI generated, but I think it did just a really cool job with it. But if you're interested in those kind of things, or somebody who is, what a better time of year to launch this type of book than right here at the Halloween season. It's fact-based, it's fact-driven, but it's also very entertaining. If you're familiar with my show, you kind of have an idea for how I lay things out. But this book goes back all the way through over 4,000 years of human history to help you understand how we've always recognized serial killers in one iteration or another. But as our minds have, or as society has progressed, we've come to see those changes as something different, and we've contextualized them in different ways. Instead of, starting with the supernatural, now we're coming through to yet more of a criminological, psychological understanding. But you're still trying to bridge a gap of about 5,000 years of human history in order to really understand how these things came to be. And the research, I got to admit, was a lot of fun, especially the vampires and werewolves section.
Yeah.
So during October, I'm going to do special readings from the book on my channel, just to kind of give y'all an idea of what it's looking like. But if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of true crime, if you're a fan of monsters, this book does it all for you. It was a passion project. It was something I was very excited about, and I'm proud that very proud of it. I think y'all will enjoy it.
I'm proud of you too. And just I haven't read it yet. I haven't got my copy yet, but just knowing Derek for how long I've known Derek, I think it's going to be great. If it's written anything like you tell a story on your channel, it's going to be great. I highly recommend picking yourself up a copy now. You
Yeah,
can have it tonight if you get the Kindle copy. It'll just download immediately.
Yeah, it's available on Kindle, paperback, and hard copy.
Yeah.
And it's coming to some more platforms. So if you're a Barnes and Noble person, it'll be available on Nook here pretty soon. It just very, very, it was a lot of fun doing the research, and I it didn't take me long to drop the whole academic way of writing, just because it was so enjoyable. But I've had people review it who have been academics, and they're like, wow, this falls in line. This could easily be adapted to a textbook. It could be pleasure reading, but it still falls squarely in true crime.
Yeah.
Because and if you're talking about getting to the truth behind true crime, which is the motto of my show.
Yeah.
This book will set this book will set your criminological foundation in concrete and rebar.
If anybody orders this book while we're on air today, and I put the link in the chat, just let me know in the chat and we'll bring Xena up and give her a milk bone. All right. It says here, if you order it right now, you can get it by Friday. Next weekend, you could spend all weekend binging this book. Get a nice cup of hot cocoa on your sofa with a little blanket and just read this book. You got plans next weekend, everybody.
That's right. Be sure you sweep the house first. Look for unwanted guests.
Yeah.
My channel is not designed, and this book is not designed to bring out paranoia, but sometimes you can't really talk about true crime. I mean, that's the key component of that is things that are true.
Yeah.
And so my book is big, or my personal bent on criminology is about truth and understanding. And so I think if you're trying to develop a foundation for truth and understanding, I don't think there's a better way to do it than this book. Largely guided by the research of John Douglas, Robert Ressler, Roy Hazelwood, Steve Chancellor. Steve Chancellor, who also had a huge impact on my career because he taught me crime scene staging, sexual assault investigations. He's been a mentor to me. But this book will hold up. I'm pretty sure it's not peer reviewed or anything, but I think it could easily withstand academic scrutiny. But it's still a fun read because it was written by me, and I don't think education needs to be boring and bland. I think it could be entertaining, and I don't think there's a better way to do that than through this book. And if you happen to know somebody who's a huge true crime fan, give them an early Christmas present. Halloween's coming up. This would be a great book to have for the Halloween season.
Get your Christmas shopping done today. You can be done.
That's right. That's right.
Let's get back to Karen Reed. I'm so excited for you, and thank you so much for choosing this live stream right now on my channel to announce the release of your book, because that's huge news, and I'm kind of flattered.
Yeah. So I don't know if I have any of my. So some of my students, a couple weeks before law school started, I became an adjunct professor teaching criminology classes. And so I think I might have some of my students, and I think I might even have some of my fellow Texas Tech students watching on Facebook or my YouTube channel. And so if y'all are here, thank you for showing up and supporting me. And it's greatly appreciated. And I hope y'all enjoy the podcast. Hope y'all enjoy KTZed. Please subscribe to her channel. And if you get the chance to check out the book, I highly encourage you to do so.
Absolutely. So do we want to start the video, or what do you want to?
Yeah. Let's go. Let's take a look at the video and see what they have to offer.
Okay. And just holler if you want me to pause it to comment. Okay. And I'll just.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we having trouble with the audio?
There was 70 witnesses. That's crazy. That's a lot of witnesses.
Not really in a murder trial.
You don't think so?
That's no, not in a murder trial. That's
70 seems like so many. Okay.
Are we having trouble with the audio?
Oh.
Because I'm not hearing it.
It's saying that they don't have sound.
What?
Why? Why is
That's
there
ridiculous.
Huh. Uh-oh.
I was pretty sure there was someone.
It's showing on my soundboard the sound isn't coming through, which is weird. Let me do this. Let me reload it and see. We're live, by the way. This happens during a live show. I've never had it not have sound before, though. Let me try again. And here I thought I was going to press all the buttons in the correct order. Share.
It happens. It's live. It's all right.
Share.
It's all right.
Let's see if we have sound now.
Police officers murdered.
Yep,
Right.
there's sound now.
People on my channel are used to long silences. So.
All right. I don't know why it loaded without sound. I load them the same way all the time, and that hasn't happened to me in a very long time. So I apologize, everybody who's watching, who's new to my channel. There's a lot of mistakes on this channel. That's not usually one of them, but thanks for bearing with us.
It makes news. When his girlfriend is charged with the murder, it makes big news. But when his girlfriend says she was framed by police who are the real killers, it makes huge news. And that is the story of Boston police officer John O'Keefe and Karen Reed. John was killed and left to die in the cold on the front lawn of a fellow officer. Karen is on trial, accused of purposely backing her SUV over him, and the lead investigator in this case was attacked by the defense as a biased trooper who was out to get Karen and to protect his brothers in blue. Now, 70-plus witnesses have testified, the attorneys have made all their arguments, and now it's time for the jury to speak. We'll break down all the latest as we continue our investigation into the tragic death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe.
I'm Benny Politan. Thank you for joining us. Here we are. Here we are, still waiting for the verdict from the jury. They did almost a full day of deliberations today. Left just a little bit early because one of the jurors had an issue. But the bottom line is the jury is working through this case. We're not getting a super fast verdict. It just didn't happen here. I know there was a lot of clamoring, people saying, oh, this is they'll be done by Tuesday afternoon. No, didn't happen. Didn't happen Tuesday afternoon. Didn't happen Wednesday. So tomorrow's another day the jury will be back to work. But even though the jury doesn't reach a verdict, things happen during a verdict watch. This is the time when we do the proverbial tea leaf readings, right? Let's read those tea leaves. What's going on here? And sometimes it's a little more obvious than other times. But the bottom line is things are happening. So let's take a look at what happened today as the jury came in for day 2 of deliberations, and the lawyers and the judge went at it.
Your Honor, I just saw the verdict forms, and as we discussed yesterday, the amendments that the court indicated it would make them.
Oh, no.
Not been made.
Okay, I did not say I'd make it. I said I'd think about it. I said I was tired and I needed to think about it.
You said before you were tired and you needed to think about it was you agreed that there needs to be not guilty options for the subordinate charges under count 2.
I said that it made sense to me, but no, I did not change it upon looking at it because the verdict slip, this verdict slip as submitted to the jury, is exactly how it always is in Massachusetts.
I ask you a question then. I don't really care how it always is in Massachusetts. I care about whether or not it's appropriate.
It's appropriate.
Thanks.
It's appropriate.
Make my argument, if you wouldn't mind, Judge, why it's not appropriate. For a superior charge.
In other states, or is it normal to just have a guilty box and not both guilty or not guilty? Or is that just a strictly Massachusetts thing? Do you know?
Well, that's what the attorney's trying to get to. It's like why is that there? And you heard that exchange. I didn't ask if it was the normal. I asked if it was appropriate.
Yeah.
And but I mean this attorney and the judge throughout the entire trial. I mean,
she sounded like his mom.
Going at
I said I'd think about it. I didn't say yes or no. I said I'd think about it. Yeah.
I don't know what to think about her. The judge, it just appears that she had a bias.
Yeah.
Just through this whole thing, it just appears that she had a bias, and I think that if the defense if they go back and they start looking at some of the video and everything, I think if they can put something together, I think they can have a legitimate complaint that even if this goes to trial, remove it from her court. And I think if I was the defense attorney, that'd be my number one goal, would be getting it out of her court.
Doesn't it normally go to a different court if it goes back to trial? No,
not necessarily. No,
gotcha.
That's more something that you have to
request.
That's more something that you're going to have to make a motion.
Yeah.
In order to have that happen.
They definitely should.
Yeah, because she's got I guess you'd call it original or primary jurisdiction, depending on where you're at in the country, and so it would come back to her court. But I think the defense has an amazing case for saying no.
What level is this? A county court or is it a state court?
This would be a district court, a state court, or superior court.
Yeah,
it's a Commonwealth state, so they do things a little differently that I don't really understand.
I don't get it.
So,
okay. Well, I was just thinking. I live in a pretty rural area, and if it was a county court, there's not a lot of it's a pretty small population, so I could see how it would end up with the same judge over and over again, just because that's the judge that does these types of cases, so but I don't know I don't even know what a Commonwealth is, honestly. I don't understand the difference.
It's just another word for state, but they have just a weird way of addressing court issues. But normally you have like a county court, which sees everything up to like your most serious misdemeanors. Yeah. And then your felonies go into a district or superior court.
Gotcha.
And that's what this is.
That's what this is.
But I just, for the life of me, I've gone over this case so many times in my mind, and there's I don't see how anybody convinced the prosecution, Mr. Lally, that there was enough probable cause to bring this thing into court. Yeah. And it just blows my mind. And obviously the jury can't come to a consensus about it. But according to the judge, she's not going to kick the two charges they absolutely found for her on.
Yeah.
That she was acquitted on. they're trying to redo the whole thing. So
how can they do that if she's been acquitted on them? She can't. It's a double. Wouldn't that be double jeopardy?
Well, no, because that was never admitted into court. They the jurors reached out to the defense to let them know, to say, hey, this is what was decided in the jury room.
Gotcha. So it wasn't. She wasn't trying. It was. They just had like one big. It was either whatever was decided for all three, but the jury just told them, hey, these other two we agreed on.
Right, but they never made that known. They never made that known to the court, and because there wasn't a consensus on all three, that's why the judge ordered a mistrial, which allows those to be retried again. As a matter of fact.
All right. Well, let's see what they have to say about. I would think. I mean, I'm not as deeply into the legal part of it as you are, but I would think that if it should be just three separate things, and your chart, you have a verdict for this count, and you have a verdict for that count, and you have a verdict for that count, but they're just grouping it all together. So it just doesn't seem fair.
Right. And
I sound like Sarah Boone.
I think the judge was.
It's not fair.
We love Sarah Boone and Cowboy Criminology. She's the true crime gift that just keeps on giving.
I haven't covered her, but I'm going to.
We have titles for her. Let's see. It's not fair. The true crime gift that keeps on giving, and the descriptive word for her on my channel is insufferable.
Maybe next. I don't have a plan.
Those are terms that have come.
I don't have a plan for next Sunday, so maybe I'll live react to her police interrogate, or like when they question her, that police interview that's famous. I'm going to live react to that next Sunday. I just decided I'm going to write it on my whiteboard.
Do me a favor, because I actually covered that in one of my videos.
I watched it.
You should do a react on that, because I mean that whole thing is just like, I have never seen so many lifelines handed out to somebody who is drowning, who just insisted that they didn't need a lifeline. It's like, lady, take a hint. Grab that inner tube and be pulled in. Just please stop talking.
One of the 8 attorneys as well. Grab one of those guys and don't fire him. How about that?
We're on 9 and 10.
Are we? I haven't checked in on it in a while. Yeah. I haven't checked in on it in like a month. So, we were on. She had fired her 8th one the last time I checked in on her case.
Yeah, but she wrote that obnoxious HR ad, and an attorney from Orlando came to her defense, was trying to broker a plea deal, and now she's lassoed him into representing her, and it looks like there's another attorney who's gotten in on the action. So, it's just who knows at this point. It's like Days of Our Lives has never been as convoluted as the Sarah Boone case.
Yes.
And there's been some pretty bad stuff on there.
All right. We're only 3 minutes into this 44-minute video, so let's get going on this.
Have to decide that she is not guilty of the superior charge, and that is the starting point of whether or not she is guilty or not guilty of any subordinate charge, often called a lesser included. Once they decide that she's not guilty of the superior charge, now there's two additional charges that they've been instructed they must decide whether she's guilty or not guilty of. How do they decide that she's not guilty of the first subordinate charge, involuntary manslaughter?
Okay. Anything else you want to say, Mr. Jackson?
I'd like an answer from the court. How do they decide that she's not guilty of involuntary manslaughter on that verdict?
That's their decision to make.
And how do they make it if they don't have an option to check a box that says not guilty?
They don't check the box that says guilty, do they? And then when they go to the next block, they don't check the block that says guilty, and on the top, you're left with not guilty. Okay?
So it's the absence of the check mark that the court determines is the not guilty finding by the jury.
Yes, that's what the verdict slip reads. It reads not guilty. If they don't check block 2, 3, or 4, the verdict slip reads not guilty. Okay? That's how it is, Mr. Jackson.
Well, apparently that's how it's going to be because of the court's order. That is not how it should be, and it's over our strong objection. They need to see that there is a not guilty option for the subordinate charges. If they come back guilty on, for instance, involuntary manslaughter, that's immediately appealable. They didn't have an option on the verdict form to find her not guilty. It's almost like the court is directing a verdict of the subordinate charges.
Okay. I disagree with you. Ms. Giannetti, you've seen verdict slips exactly like this, okay?
I actually haven't really.
Have you had no lesser includeds?
No, we've always had lesser includeds, but I have not seen a verdict slip there where not guilty is not an option for the lesser.
Okay. I disagree with you. All right.
I don't like her attitude. I'm just gonna say it. I don't like her attitude. Just the way she's speaking to them is disrespectful. You know, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, even I could understand that she's arguing her point, but she doesn't have to be such a. I don't want to. Forgive me, but she's kind of being a bitch.
Well, you know, you saw with that second attorney. She tried to drag him into it. And then he ended up saying, "No, I've never seen one like that."
Yeah,
and I see exactly what the lead defense attorney is doing, and he makes a great point. It's almost a subliminal message that if you don't find if you don't check this box, something's wrong. And
well, I don't understand why the judge is arguing it. How hard would it be to go back in, make another box, reprint the form? Like, why is she arguing so hard against it? It doesn't make sense. If she's not biased, Katie, that doesn't make sense.
Katie, the hills that people pick to die on. I mean, I'm just like, I mean, I think that would be something, because he's absolutely right. It's a totally appealable issue for something that she could have directed the court clerk. They have a printer. I saw it. I saw it right there when the camera panned to the judge. There's a printer sitting right there. It's an easy fix.
Parson is saying that this is the form they used for years, but maybe it shouldn't have been the form they used for years, and maybe this is the first attorney to point it out. But from what I know, just from what I've seen so far, it doesn't make sense, and I don't know why she's arguing so hard against it. You know,
those people choose to die on. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I don't think it's better.
This is funny, Ms. Reed.
Sorry,
hang on just a second. I don't think it's a matter of her being pro-blue. I just think that she is so dug in on everything in her court is going to be done her way. And regardless of what anyone else thinks or what anyone else says, she's going to stick with that. It's my court. It's going to be my way. I think that she's just so, for whatever reason, she seems to have a vested interest in Karen Reed being convicted in this case. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I can't explain it. The district attorney obviously doesn't think his people have another chance because they're bringing in a pinch hitter. But whatever the vested interest in this is, it's going to lead to a miscarriage of justice because John O'Keefe is dead.
Yeah,
that's the fact that doesn't change. And when you have investigations that start off so far behind the eight ball and so improperly handled, when you have those things, the only person who ultimately suffers is the victim, because nobody's ever held to account for what happened. We'll go just a little bit further with this, and then I'll just kind of wrap up kind of what I think. And it was interesting because, we'll talk about that. But go ahead, Katie.
Billy was saying that she's pro-blue, which if she is, she should not be, because if somebody like me with a small, very small YouTube channel can take each case, and I'm not against cops, but I'm also not for bad cops, which is exactly what a judge who's been elected should be. This family will never get justice if the wrong person is convicted, just like you were saying.
That's it. Judges got to be neutral and impartial.
All right, we're done. There are some minor changes that need to be made to the verdict slip. Does the Commonwealth oppose the suggestion made by Mr. Jackson, which seems like a reasonable one?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so it will be not guilty So tell me again how you want it.
Sure.
You want-
Not guilty of the offense charged or any lesser included offense.
So, big argument today about that. So, let me show you the old verdict form so you get an understanding of what we're talking about here. If you take a look at it, you've got count 2, manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence in the above titled case. And then you've got not guilty as a choice, guilty of the offense as charged. And then there's 2 that are indented. And that was the problem. They felt like that if you found not guilty of the offense as charged, you would check not guilty, and then you go to the lesser included, and there's only a guilty line for those 2. Guilty of lesser included offense of involuntary manslaughter. So the form of it was really the problem, the confusion. They end up fixing it by making the top not guilty of the offense as charged or the lesser includeds. But there's a lot of arguing about this. So let me bring in our guests, all of them from Massachusetts, all of them spending a lot of time in criminal courtrooms trying cases and winning cases.
Okay, that's
joining us.
interesting because he's bringing on people who have practiced law in this state. So I'm very interested to hear this. If they see the same issue that I see with it.
Defense attorney Joseph Krowski Jr. also joining us, criminal defense attorney and college instructor and author Peter Ellikin, and the former head of the homicide unit in the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, attorney Rick Grundy. Great to see everyone tonight. All right, Joseph, you had Mr. LA, you like to call him Hollywood Jackson, not happy with the Massachusetts verdict form or verdict slip. Do you think this was a big deal to not have clarity about the lesser included charges?
Look, I think those 2 probably need couples therapy at this point, but I'm glad they worked it out at the end. No, that is typically the form we use. It's really not that confusing. The reason there are not any not guilty boxes on the lesser includeds, because the jury's instructed if you check off not guilty, you don't even consider any of the lesser includeds. I agree mechanically the way that form looks is a little confusing. The standard form in Massachusetts usually says only check 1 box. But typically you don't have a not guilty option on a lesser included offense because if it's not guilty of everything. So this was kind of much ado about nothing, but it's zealous advocacy. And look, to her credit,
I have to argue with this guy. Why not make it as clear as possible? It might be simple to you because you look at this every day, but you're talking about 12 people. It's 12, I believe. Yeah. So you're looking at 12 people who are not in this every day, are not looking at these forms every day. So why not make it so a kindergartner can understand it? What's the problem?
Right. Why not make it completely clear? And part of that, he's been an attorney for a number of years. He's a law professor. So yeah, to him it makes sense. But there's not 12 lawyers in that jury box. This
Bingo.
Probably would have been over a lot sooner if there had been. They'd probably been like, you know what, this is ridiculous. Let's go.
Yeah.
But if you would you jump forward to 23 minutes and 33 seconds thereabouts?
Oh, you got timestamps. I love it. You said 23?
23:33 thereabouts, 23:30. Yeah, right about there.
Violation of department policy by Trooper Michael Proctor. Trooper Proctor remains on full duty. But then there's more to this, right? Because this is not his only case. There's another big trial that we're tracking here on Court TV, by the way, involving a man named Brian Walsh. There he is inside the courtroom. He's accused of murdering his wife. And it's in the...
By the way, I looked at the evidence of this guy earlier today. If I was on the jury, I say guilty, is all I'm saying. And let's watch this and then I'll give my opinion.
Okay.
same courthouse, and Trooper Proctor is the designated case officer for that murder trial as well. Take a listen to some of the evidence in that case.
It had become evident that Mr. Walsh was suspecting his wife of having an affair. The oldest child's iPad begins to visit websites concern how long does it take for a dead body to smell? How long does it take for someone to be missing to be declared dead? He is seen purchasing numerous items, including a Lennox high-tension hacksaw, 48 terry cloth towels, 200 disposable rags, trash bags. In the Swampscott dumpster, they found items, including a set of Volkswagen keys, Anna Walsh's COVID vaccination card. Also located in the dumpster, Your Honor, were rugs. These rugs contain red-brown staining as well, and a piece of a Gucci necklace consistent with one that Anna Walsh wore.
So what happens now? What impact does everything that was revealed during the course of this case have on the rest of his cases, the rest of his career, prior convictions of people he investigated? Let's bring back in our special Massachusetts think tank. Rick Grundy, let me start.
So this same thing happened with O.J. Simpson when Mark Furman got on the stand and admitted to saying the N-word, and then they went back and undid or tried to undo a bunch of the cases that he worked on. And that's exactly what's going to happen with the cases in the Karen Reed trial, because the cops got on the stand and admitted to not doing a good job. So now this guy, you heard that evidence for this guy, like it's a lot of evidence, and I don't know why he hasn't taken a plea deal yet, because he's totally going to get convicted. But now they have this little tidbit of, this is the cop that worked on it, and look what he did over here in Karen Reed's case.
I think the distinction is there's an abundance of evidence in the case we just saw, and the evidence in the John O'Keefe case is certainly more subjective. And open to interpretation, especially, when you collect evidence with with a leaf blower and red Solo cups. I mean, it's ridiculous that happens. But with that other case, I think that's less of a problem. But the defense wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't raise the issue of
for sure.
But in the John O'Keefe case, you can sit there and say that first off, they never focused on anybody except Karen Reed. They did. I don't even think you could call it an investigation. I mean, it was Bush League at best. And the fact of the matter is, you had a state police barracks not too far away that has a crime scene unit that could have come and assisted officers. That's what state police do. That's their entire job is to help out smaller agencies.
They didn't even take into consideration that it may have just been an accident. He was a drunk guy in the middle of winter. And what if he just fell down into the bushes, and that's where and stumbled around and then died of exposure?
Yeah.
Like, what if that's it? There's people every year up north that die of exposure in the city because they got too drunk and passed out in an alley, Yeah,
he wasn't wearing a coat. His shoes were missing.
Yeah, that was weird that his shoes were missing.
Yeah, or one shoe that the original investigators missed, but when the state police showed up several hours later, they found it after 2 inches of snow had fallen.
But also, people who are hypothermic get hot and they start taking off layers, and maybe his feet were hot, and maybe he took them off himself or took his jacket off himself. So,
that's a possibility that I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah,
about
you hear about that all the time, like on people on Mount Everest and stuff start stripping their clothes off even though they're freezing to death. Do you want me to skip to another timestamp, or do we want to?
Let's keep going with this right quick, and I'll find my next point.
Okay, I wanted if you can find the timestamp for where they show his arm. I want to show because we were talking about whether it was a dog bite or not, and I know it's in this video because I shouldn't admit to this, but I did listen to this while I was driving and noticed that they did show that photo on here.
You,
Yeah. Okay, I got
what
it.
are your initial thoughts here about what impact this will or won't have on other cases like Brian Walsh?
We have a question in the chat. Do you happen to know what his blood alcohol content was?
I do not. And that
we'll let this play and I'm going to Google it. I bet I can get to it real quick.
go for it.
The short answer, it'll haunt him for the rest of his career, as it should. Let me just remind you viewers, we've talked about this before, and obviously our other guests know that, but in Massachusetts, this is a highly prestigious position, and the troopers that get into the homicide units are a part of the district attorney's office. They're housed there. They're answerable to the district attorney. So starting with this current trial, the fact that he took the stand and was still in his position prevented the prosecutor from at least being able to say, and you were removed from the district attorney's office due to these actions. And now the district attorney's office doesn't have a say as to what Mass State Police do, but hopefully, and you were suspended.
Okay, according to Google, so who knows, his blood alcohol was 0.21, which is really drunk.
Almost 3 times the legal limit.
Yeah, so he was wasted.
But this is what has been going on with what's
just everybody keep in mind. I just did a quick Google search, so if that's wrong, correct me in the chat.
called in Massachusetts the post filings, where they are created a whole registry of police violations. So, like the others that end up on the post list, this gentleman's these actions will follow him to each case. Mr. Walsh is wrapped up tighter than a pig on a spit, so I'm not worried about him. But the bottom line is Proctor should be removed for cause, and he will be ineffectual.
Joseph, your thoughts. What's going to happen? Does this impact any prior convictions involving him as an investigator?
Oh, absolutely. There was just recently a motion for a new trial allowed on a murder conviction down here in Plymouth County because it was revealed that the prosecutors had been exchanging anti-Asian emails with one another, inappropriate emails regarding anti-Asian prejudice and superior.
This is so dumb, by the way. What's dumb about it is if you're going to have emails with some sort of racism, whether it's against Asians or whoever, why are you doing it from work emails? Because that's all they can subpoena is like you're doing it on your work messenger and work emails.
Why would you do it on any forum that would leave an electronic trail? That just
like first of all, why would you be anti-Asian, whatever? Like, why would you be like that in the first place? And also, why are you doing it on work emails? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I will say this. When I see behavior like that, I realize you don't have to be intelligent to get through law school. And that makes me feel a lot better about my current situation. So
you have a chance.
So if you're looking for a silver lining, that actually gives me a little hope. So.
Like I don't get it. I just don't get it.
A court trial judge allowed the motion for a new trial because of the bias of the prosecution team. So I think there's going to be the same problem here. And if I understand Rick correctly, he almost thinks it would be better if the prosecution could say, you were removed from the district attorney's office. That's an awfully double-edged sword. I think if he gets demoted or fired, which he should, it's going to taint every case he touched. Now, in the Walsh case, if he's the primary out of CPAC on that case, the playbook has already been established in this case. If this jury buys the cover-up with the architect being Proctor, here we go again with Walsh, because who's not to say that he didn't get his hands on those tablets and enter in different Google searches? So this is a problem for past cases, this present case, and future cases.
Peter Elkin, will every defense attorney now try to get his phone and all of his messages and all of his
Did you
history?
want me to pause?
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a stretch. I really do. I think he's reaching to try to make a point, but he didn't do it. He kind of lost it. He got too far ahead of himself. But one thing, what they're talking about is prosecutors and police officers are subject to Brady registration. And if you find yourself on a Brady list as a police officer or prosecutor, it means there's been significant misconduct or professional misconduct in your past. And it doesn't necessarily bar you from being a police officer, bar you from testifying in court, but there's always that reasonable doubt that's going to be there.
Yeah, because
and you can overcome that. It's so difficult.
The defense can bring it up, and it makes you look really bad.
Yeah, and really the only way to get around it is for the prosecution to bring it up, but then they risk weakening their case. So where do you go with that? So if you want, let's go to 37 minutes, and this gets to where, we'll just let it play from here.
More so where you're leaning than what you're hearing.
All right, let's get to our next piece of evidence, the cuts on John O'Keefe's arms.
Okay,
Based on
I'm
your
going to
review,
pause it and ask the chat. Put in the chat, if you don't pretend, like wipe your brain clean, pretend you don't know anything about this case at all, and look at this photo and tell me what you think that would be from if you didn't know anything about this case. I can see personally some sort of animal scratches. It doesn't look like bites to me at all. I could see it looks like deep scratches to me. And it's not from some sort of instrument or something like that. It's not from a knife. It looks like either from a bush or like a animal claw. Like that, this could have even happened as he was laying there, like a raccoon or something, you know?
It could. I'm kind of looking there at the elbow, because those do look like, they're at the elbow. Those do look like punctures. And if you think about it, if you have somebody with their elbow out trying to avoid,
like the teeth went in here and the claws on either side, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is these two scratches here and then these two that are so much further away from each other? They're like spread out more.
And leave Xena alone. That's not nice.
What?
Yeah, she has.
She does not. Xena, somebody purchased something at KTZed.com, and I'm not going to, your real name came up, so I'm not going to say who it is, but I just threw 2 milk bones at Xena and hit her in the face, and she did not wake up. So I did my due diligence.
Yeah. So, I mean, but then that leads to the next problem. The dog was gotten rid of, so there's no way to test. And I don't think that they swabbed those cuts to see if there was any kind of particulate matter that would tell.
Yeah.
That would
Frauder
tell.
Watch says it looks like dog bites. Yeah, there was a dog. Eric is asking if there was a dog in the house. There was a German Shepherd in the house. Speaking of somebody who has a German Shepherd, does this look like something your German Shepherd could have done, Erica? Yeah, so everybody says teeth marks, but I don't see it. So I don't know. There's usually, and it could just be because he died too fast before the bruises, but every time I've seen a dog bite, there's bruising around it.
And that could have been that could have been staved off by the cold. He could have lost blood from his head fast enough that it didn't form. But if that's on the autopsy table, bruises can develop anywhere between 24 and 72 hours after death. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the other thing. And of course, we're taking a lot on assumption, I think reasonable assumption considering the dog was there that night and then, he was given to another agency and They traded him to somewhere else, and now he's, you know, working on a tuna boat in the Atlantic. So, I mean,
they don't even have to check that if it's that dog's DNA. They could have just swabbed to see if it was canine DNA at all. Person said, and I know Person paid attention to this trial, said there was not dog DNA found, but was it tested for? Do you know, Person? I don't know, but if it was tested for and not found, then that's something else. Then I'm going to go back to my theory about him falling into the bushes and then stumbling around and ending up somewhere else. Did they test the bushes around there to see if his DNA was, or if there was bent branches or anything? This investigation was so messed up that who knows?
If there wasn't blood on the branches, I'm sure after the leaf blower got there, there probably was.
Yeah, they blew it. They blew his DNA all over the branches.
Oh my gosh! It was a
a rabid bunny. So edge
trolling hard.
Yeah. This is a great chat, by the way, between your audience and my audience. I love that they can talk to each other in this chat.
Oh, it's hysterical. So, I'm loving it.
I love it.
But yeah, so that does lead some credence to your theory. And you know, I just kind of wrapping this up, but looking at everything that happened, and because you know me, I'm the behavior guy.
Yeah.
And when I see behavior that's contrary to what I would expect to see in a situation like that, I've been a police supervisor. Mm-hmm. If somebody comes to my door early in the morning, knocks on my door and says, "Hey, there's a dead cop in your front yard," I'm going to be out the door. I'm going to be like, "Whoa, what in the world?" You know?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing everything, but there was no investigation. And so I think you have a pretty good theory. This could have been accidental.
Yeah.
But there's another theory that I had based on kind of everybody's involvement in the house and how the stories of everybody who was in the house line up almost just a little too well. Like there's very little variance. And I would expect to see a little more variance because of perspectives and things like that.
And people were all drunk.
But yeah.
You get 10 drunk people together, the story's not going to, the exact same thing could happen in front of them. It's not going to be the same story. And if they're using the same verbiage and stuff like that, it's rehearsed, obviously.
But it almost seems like the testimony was very mechanical. Mm-hmm. And everybody kind of hit the same talking points, one thing or another. But then
Person said there was pig DNA found in these cuts. Are there wild boars or anything in Massachusetts? I know there are in like Texas and Oklahoma and stuff like that. I don't know if there are up north. I don't know how pig DNA would get there. Although he was a cop, so it might be bacon.
Really? Come on, man. But yeah, I mean, so there's some really good points in there.
Oh,
but I almost
Andy has a good theory. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but he's saying it looks like snowblower blades. I don't know if I see it, but I didn't think of something like that, like where it could have been
that
like
was
some sort of instrument, like some sort of machinery like that.
Well, that was one of the concerns, that maybe because he was close enough to the road that they thought that maybe he had gotten hit by a plow.
Or it could have even been rocks in the snow with the plow going by pushing the snow if a plow went by.
Dogs eat pig ears.
That is true.
Maureen Bridge said that real quick, didn't she?
Xena loves pig ears, but I would think if it was a dog's mouth depositing pig DNA, it would be mixed with canine DNA. So I did think of that, actually, the pig ears thing. We're going to solve it right here in this chat.
That's right. We're going to get to the bottom of it. Truth behind true crime right here.
Exactly. Let's watch a few more minutes and see what they have to say about these marks.
Review of all of the data that you've talked about, all of the information that you were given and reviewed. What is your opinion or conclusion about how these injuries were sustained?
I believe that these injuries were sustained by an animal, possibly a large dog, because of the pattern of the injuries.
Peter Elkin, 0 to 10. How important is that evidence?
I think it's about a 7 for the defense. That they were able to bring on experts that said it was.
It is also weird that there are. Erica brings up there's marks here, but not on his anywhere else on his body, just on the arm. And that is, if it was a dog coming at you, that is the motion that you would make to defend yourself. So
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. Did you want to hear what these four have to say about it, or do you want me to skip to another?
Yeah. Let's just we'll wrap it up with what these guys have to say about the dog bite. Or if
okay.
And in their expert opinion, it was a dog, and I know that's kind of negated. The other side had an expert saying the opposite, that they found some pig DNA or something, which, of course, then they could, defense could knock that and say, well, how do you know that's not a dog treat was in his mouth? And then they also brought on, the defense also brought on the expert saying, the Fed expert saying that, there would be evidence.
0 to 10.
The arm. I'd say 7.
I got to give that an 8 for the defense, because I just don't think the prosecution. I don't think the defense proved it, but I don't think the prosecution countered it all that well. But it ain't a dog bite, I'll tell you that.
Joseph Krowski Jr., 0 to 10.
I'll give that 7 for the defense. I wasn't really impressed with the expert. Forensic canine bite pathology is a difficult thing. I didn't think it was a very sophisticated presentation. But to the eye, certainly it does conceivably look like dog bites. I don't think the Commonwealth did enough to explain how broken glass or the shards from the taillight could have, in fact, caused that injury.
All right, next piece of evidence, we're talking about the hair.
Was it glass or was it a broken tail? Like a taillight is plastic, so I couldn't see plastic taillight making those marks. Possibly glass.
Billy's a car guy, so Billy. You'd almost have to try to elbow a very large taillight to cause those kind of injuries, and I don't know that it. I don't know. I don't even know if that would be possible.
If there was broken glass on the ground and he was dragged through it where that arm was the only thing touching the ground, because they're all in the same direction. But then you would have to drag sideways. So it would have to be more than one person dragging. Because if if one person is dragging, you're probably dragging either from the ankles or up under the arms like that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, they've, and that kind of goes back to the issue that I brought up earlier, is when an investigation has devolved to this point, you're almost entirely left with speculation. And
which means not guilty because there's not enough evidence.
Yeah. One of the theories the main theory that I had was that there was a fight that took place somewhere, maybe on the steps, maybe in that vicinity. I think the dog might have had something to do with it, because the dog was gone within a week of this whole thing. But I almost have to wonder if the taillight wasn't broken as an afterthought. Because when Karen Reed showed up, she didn't know what had happened, and boom. So there's a retired FBI agent who kind of seems to support that same theory, that there was a fight, there was an altercation or something. Behaviorally, I don't see it. The evidence so tainted. I don't know how you could get a conviction out of this.
Here's the thing with the fight theory, that just it also could have been that there was a fight inside the house between whoever's the owner of the dog and John O'Keefe. The dog, obviously, if you get into a fight with Mr. Zed in our living room, Zena's coming after you, no matter who's correct. Zena doesn't know. So the dog gets involved somehow. And then maybe they didn't kill him. Maybe they just kicked him out, but he was so drunk. We saw his blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit. They just said, get out of here. Karen had already left. So he's stumbling around outside. And then it also was an accidental death, but caused not by Karen Reed, but by the fight in the house and them saying, go get out of here, you know?
Yeah. Duty of care, which would have been easy to explain. Hey, he was drunk and belligerent. We told him he had to go. I mean, yeah, there's still a duty of care because obviously he was too intoxicated to take care of himself. But
they were also intoxicated. So would a jury have convicted them? I don't think I would have. If somebody comes into my home and is fighting, I should be allowed to kick them out, no matter how drunk they are.
Sure. But I mean, I'm studying tort law right now, and so there's a whole lot. Yeah, I'm learning a whole lot of. I'm looking at the law in a completely different way now. So there is still
good coming from two perspectives, because you know the law and what it is, and I know what I would think if I was sitting on a jury. Because if I'm on a jury, I'm going by, well, what would I have done if I invite somebody over and they get into a fight with my husband and I want them out of the house and I'm also intoxicated. I'm not worried about what they do after the door locks behind them, you know.
And here's the thing, it goes back to that point.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't conduct a thorough investigation, when you don't take time to look at the little things, do proper interviews, collect evidence properly. I mean, I've never worked a homicide scene, but I can assure you that in my crime scene investigations classes and my detectives classes, no instructor has ever said, oh, and by the way, be sure you have a leaf blower with you, because you never know when you're going to need to excavate.
And keep Solo cups in your trunk.
Katie, can you go back and show the injuries one more time? Thank you, Erica. Yeah. But that's the whole problem. That's the whole problem right there, is now you're just left with speculation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's your expert. He says, no way a taillight did that.
No way.
Yeah.
You said he had a glass that he stole from the bar too, correct?
Yeah, he walked
in the video.
Yeah.
So was that glass maybe broken?
No, I don't think so.
I don't even know if it was glass, but I was just thinking maybe.
So I think we can all pretty much agree, probably animal something or other.
Yeah.
But glass would leave more uniform, sharp, probably deeper cuts, and those are jagged, and so something of nature, brambles, animals, something like that.
Well,
but
it also maybe because it was so cold, there's no bruising. Mr. Zed's never been bitten and then stood out in the cold before too. So maybe bruising doesn't happen as quickly if it's cold.
Well, I mean, winter's coming on. I guess in the interest of science, if he wants to get bit and stand out in the snow for a little bit, I mean,
Zena, are you for it?
I think some things we can just take on faith, but if he's, how committed is he to improving the world through science? So I mean.
I don't know if Zena would be up for it. Ava might be.
I had a lab husky mix who it would just be pouring snow and he'd just be laying out in the yard. It's like, you got to come in, it's cold. And he's like, no, nope. I'm not coming in. It's 105 in Texas. And yeah. But anyway, that's kind of my take on it. This was really a wild case, but the Jean Benet case, the West Memphis 3, the John O'Keefe case, they all suffer from the same problem. Proper procedures and protocols weren't followed. And when that happens, you're left with nothing but speculation. And sometimes that speculation can get really, really wild. And it can get really, really out there. And so, kind of like what we did here, we're trying to find the middle ground between some of the more out there things and some of the things that are at least plausible explanations. But y'all, I want to thank y'all so much for for spending your Sunday evening with Katie and me.
Yeah.
Katie, thank you so much for working the controls and for agreeing to do this. It's just been awesome. I always want to look forward to doing more of these with you, because I just think they just go so well. It's so easy to have fun with you and just go back and forth, and you know the subject matter so well that it's not like everything stays on point, stays on track.
And I'm not an expert in anything, so I'm just giving the public's perspective. Just I'm not a lawyer. I've never been a police officer. I just am interested in this stuff. I'm the type of person that's going to be sitting on the jury.
But yeah, Katie, that's it exactly. It's the person of common knowledge, the reasonable person who's going to decide these cases.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking at this trial, and however this ended up, I think we can all pretty much agree, getting away from the minutia and getting bogged down in the details, I don't think anybody can sit there and say, okay, yeah, Karen Reed's guilty, she needs to be in prison. I'm not convinced. I don't see anything there. And part of what I'd want to see as a supervisor, if my officers brought this to me, I'd want to see an investigation that logically leads me point by point to saying this is our person.
Yeah.
And that's missing in great detail here.
Cannot be beyond a reasonable doubt when there's this much police misconduct, or even if it wasn't misconduct on purpose, even if they were just bumbling idiots, there's not enough for beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a very high standard. Yeah, it's not a preponderance of the evidence. You can't just have they just mess it up so badly.
Yeah, I mean, this is if it's not criminal conspiracy at its worst, it's negligence at its absolute best.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, just insane.
Hold on, I got to get the right buttons up so I can press them in the right order, and then we'll. Oh, you know what? I always forget to do my advertisement. Stick around, guys, for 1 second, please. Pretty please, because I'm so bad at this job. I'm a professional, guys. Hey, go to KTZed.com if you want to get merchandise. All of my merchandise is in the Overruled collection, but you can also get Iggy Normus Jr.'s collection. KFAR stuff is up there. The Sunset Saints, which is very difficult to say fast, and Patriot Jam. But my favorite one is this Christ is King collection. All of the merchandise in this section, 100% of the proceeds go to onemorechild.org, which is a Christ-centered, they offer Christ-centered services to vulnerable children and struggling families. This is a collaboration between, let's be frank, Iggy Normus and I. We created this, and we have donated $142 so far to onemorechild.org. Get a coffee mug, get a t-shirt. If you don't want the stuff and you just want to support onemorechild.org, make a donation directly to them and just let me know about it, so I can shout you out on my channel. We love that charity because they do help struggling families, and it links back to true crime because they help out people who were trafficked and make sure that they have a roof over their head and food to eat. So KTZed.com. Thank you for sticking around for the advertisement, guys. I meant to do that earlier and totally forgot. Maybe someday you'll have some Cowboy Criminology at KTZed.com.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. I put on my Marine Corps hoodie because it's just a little chilly. It's been rainy here all day, and I've got a tin roof. So, I mean, rain on a tin roof for me is better than a box of Benadryl. So it's been everything I do to stay awake. I'm glad I've had so much stuff going on, but I'm definitely wanting to do a Cowboy Criminology.
We'll work on
hoodie.
that.
Yeah.
By the time we stream together again, we'll have it up there.
It'll be a plan.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. If you're not subscribed to my channel, go to YouTube, type in KTZed. I'm the first one that comes up. If you're not subscribed to Cowboy Criminology, what are you doing with your lives? What are we doing here? It's a great channel. I love his channel. You'll love his channel. Subscribe now. Check out his back catalog too. He's got a lot of good videos up there for sure. I spent an entire weekend a couple of months ago just watching back catalog videos of yours, and it was great. So anything you want to plug coming up in the future?
Not this week.
Not this week.
Law school, the book launch. There's been a lot of living in two different residences, and so yeah, it's been a lot. So I'm not really. It's been a little harder for me to be a more frequent, but I have had a special request on my channel to cover Robert Tellis. He's the politician, Las Vegas councilman who killed or is alleged to have killed the journalist.
I did a deep dive into that case recently. I kind of want to cover that one too. Maybe we should do something together.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's get it on the books.
We will make plans off air, offline, and we will let you know. Just watch our community posts. We'll let you guys know when we schedule that. Yeah, that was very interesting. Especially since you could watch so many people have Ring cameras that picked him up. It's a crazy case. If you don't know about it, stay tuned because it's a crazy case.
Yeah, it's wild, and of course, it could only happen in Vegas. So.
Yeah.
Or Massachusetts, apparently.
Yep. Exactly. I have coming up, I'm going to talk about Ethan Couch, which is the young teenager who was too good to get in trouble and drove really, really drunk and hurt a lot of people very badly and thought that he shouldn't get punished for it because he was rich. This is the affluenza case. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you froze up. And Derek is frozen. Uh-oh. He looked like he really wanted to say something too. Uh-oh. Maybe I will filibuster and see if we can get him back in here. Uh-oh. Nope, he's still frozen. So I'll just go into my spiel. So Ethan Couch I have coming up next week, just because I have a busy week and I don't have a lot of time to do a research project, but I'm going to live react to the Sarah Boone interrogation video, or, when the first day she got arrested. And then also I have a body cam of an arrest where both her and, this is horrible, I forgot the victim's name, the gentleman that she put into a suitcase a few months before the suitcase thing happened. Both of them were arrested, and nope, he's gone now. Uh-oh, we lost him. So I'm going to watch that video as well. Thanks for coming. I appreciate all of you. I don't know if I should just keep it going or not. I'm not sure if he can come back or not. Maybe his internet dropped. Possibly his internet dropped. Well, I'm going to play the outro. If he comes back before the outro is over, we'll pop back in. The music you hear in my intros and outros is all by Stephen Baker, Iggy Normus Jr., that we just saw his merchandise over there. Check him out. The links are in the description. Thanks for coming, guys. Bye.
What you're saying, we're late stage in the catacombs, shuffling a single card today, broken table trying to play some ping pong. It's not subtle when we celebrate a magazine with the pages torn. My body cracks, knees buckling, I got a bad case of brain fog. Said I got a bad case of brain fog. I'ma take my butt home. So I'ma take my butt home. mockingbird can't sing the same songs. My body cracks, knees buckling. I got a bad case of brain fog. Said I got a bad case of brain fog.